If there's just one qualifier attached to the description of a vehicle, it's usually its horsepower output. Determining a vehicle's power output simply requires a session on a chassis dynamometer. All of the vehicles in DSPORT's 2012 New Car Buyer's Guide were tested on the dyno to determine power output. The 2012 all-wheel drive vehicles were tested on the DynoJet 424 XLC2 at Ready Performance Products in Irvine, while the front and rear-wheel drive vehicles were tested on the DynoJet 224X at Power Pros in Santa Ana, California. Since all the vehicles were tested on the same dyno, it's possible to compare related power figures across the various platforms. While most vehicles were a tad underrated from the factory, a couple vehicles, like the Camaro SS, showed lower than expected numbers on the dyno. Factoring these power figures with the measured weights of the vehicles can determine the power-to-weight ratio of each vehicle. Vehicles that produce higher power-to-weight ratios should out-accelerate vehicles with lower power-to-weight ratios, with all other factors being equal. Engine, tire, brakes, suspension, steering, and seating are all put to the test when a vehicle attacks a road course. On the West Coast, there are few tracks more abusive and challenging on a vehicle than the streets of Willow, located in Rosamond, California. Professional drivers Tyler McQuarrie and Robbie Montanola were handed the keys to our fleet of 2012 test vehicles and challenged to put down the best lap possible. While our pros literally drove the piss out of the vehicles, all of them made the 2-hour trip back under their own power.
Just got out of the 2012 Nissan GT-R. It's an absolute beast. The technology that's in this thing is just second to none.
The Nissan GT-R, what more can you say about it? It's an amazing car. It's too fast for streets of Willow because it just drove me off the racetrack back over there. The pure acceleration of the car, you're looking down at the speedometer going, wow, I'm really going this fast.
The gearbox, super quick on the shift. There's really nothing that I don't like about this car other than I'd like it to be cheaper.
It's a GT-R. I mean, what more can you say? If you can afford the price tag, I definitely think the 2012 is leaps and bounds better than the 2009, 2010. So I was just out there driving in the Mazda Speed 3. Whoa, what a handful of a car. Just in terms of power delivery, the car is just all over the place. It felt great, you know, as you get on power, but it did have some significant understeer as you touched the throttle coming out of a corner. Very difficult car to drive smooth and precisely with.
The biggest thing you notice when you take off is the motor, turbocharged, so you instantly feel that turbo. It felt pretty good on power. Gearbox felt really good. Everything felt sharp and precise, which is kind of normal for the Mazda. I was pretty happy with it. Felt pretty good.
Zoom, zoom, or just zoom?
Zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom.
The Lotus Evora S, very fun to drive, very spirited drive. A great daily driver, definitely a great weekend track car. With some simple mods and maybe some weight reduction, this car could really be a contender in its class. It's a cool car.
I think my perception's a little skewed because I spend a lot of time in Exige Cup cars, and this doesn't feel anything like the Exige. The wheelbase is longer in this, it's heavier, so it doesn't have that dartiness. It's very predictable, it does everything you want. Power-wise is really good. The one downfall that I think this car has that bothered me a bit is the gearbox. It has that clunky Lotus feel to it. In a car in this price point, I would think there'd be something a little bit different. I just got out of the Chevy Camaro SS.
Right now we have this insurgence of domestic muscle cars, so it's great to have the Camaro SS out here.
And really the only car that I can compare this to out here is the Mustang. And immediately when you leave the pits, this one doesn't feel like it has the power that the Mustang does. It doesn't feel like it has that get up and go.
The size of the car is massive. The car moves very slowly, takes a lot of effort to get the car to actually turn into the corner. My short Filipino self has just had a very difficult time looking out of the car.
It feels big, boaty, and just lacks power for a car this heavy, I think. So overall, it was kind of a iffy one. The Mustang was definitely more fun to drive.
First thing that comes to mind after driving the road race Mitsubishi Ralliart is horsepower. Like, holy crap, where did this power come from?
The first thing I noticed when leaving, going down the straightaway, is you're flying. The thing is super, super quick, so you don't even realize you're in a Ralliart.
I think where this car can improve is in the braking. That's probably this car's biggest drawback because of how much horsepower this car has.
Never driven a modded Ralliart till today, and I'm pretty impressed.
It's a testament to show, like, you know, this Ralliart platform is a great platform to start off with.
All right, I just got out of the Ford Mustang GT 5.0. The first thing you notice is the motor. It's freaking awesome, the power that this thing has.
After driving both of our Detroit muscle cars here today, definitely have to give the win to the Ford because it's just overall a much more nimble car. Doesn't feel as heavy, doesn't feel bulky, and they just did a great job of putting that, you know, nice sports car package together.
Performance-wise, the car turns in really well. Doesn't brake that well. The thing is pretty heavy, so the brakes I wish were a little better for this given car. The stock Mitsubishi Evo MR technology you see in this car as it sits is often in cars double and triple its value. I think it's the most fun all-wheel drive car you can drive.
It's everything you expect from an Evo MR. Well balanced, good handling, usable power. The all-wheel drive system works really well. It's a fantastic platform to start with, and it's highly recommended.
Just got out of the RobiSpec STI. This thing was actually a lot of fun. You look at it, it just looks kind of like it's going to be somewhat quick. You get in there and it does everything really, really well.
What a difference, you know, some simple tuning can do to your car. It felt really alive, very reactive, smooth. The tuning they did at RobiSpec really helped this car be a real Subaru.
The Hyundai Genesis, my favorite aspect of this car is coming off the corner. You can just get a little slip angle and manage it fairly well, a little bit more than what you would think with the amount of power that this car has.
I drove this car several years ago. Power delivery felt more crisp. Once you get into the corner and you start applying throttle, it really likes to step out.
That makes it, you know, more fun to drive. The price point that this car is in, you get a lot for your money. It's a lot of fun to go drive, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get it.
Hey guys, I just jumped out of the Scion TC. Overall, a very fun car to drive.
I actually liked it. The platform felt very stable. It didn't do anything great, but it didn't do anything really bad. It just felt more raw, more of a car that you could take to the track.
For a guy that's driving this car around the street and bringing it to the racetrack on the weekends, you can't go wrong. It's a great car for the price.
So I just hopped out of the Mazda 2. The first thing I noticed about the car was the brakes. The brakes are actually really grabby, almost too grabby. It turned in pretty good, and if you kind of flick it, you can actually get some rotation, but overall, that was pretty good.
It actually is a very surprising car for me. It has the Mazda motorsport spirit. Been driving Mazda race cars for a long time. You know, it definitely shows what their passion is. Overall, cool car.
The Honda Civic SI, I feel like the car is growing with generations. It just feels big, but the motor, as usual, is pretty good, but just the performance side of it, not a huge fan of it.
The first thing I noticed is there's so much craziness going on. I have all these like distractions going on while I was going up the straightaway, but overall I had good rev, good torque out of the hole and down the straightaway. Suspension wise, I think the SI could still be even sportier than it is. With some simple mods, this car will be, you know, really fun to drive. The Crawford TC obviously has some modifications done to it. The intake and exhaust and other engine mods that they did definitely helped. They did a great job with this TC. Good job to the Crawford guys.
The biggest thing I noticed was just the power. This one just had that little bit more. It just did everything much better. Nothing stood out, you know, drastically. It was just everything was better compared to the stock version. Another great example of why the stock TC was a good car that you could take and throw a couple mods on it and have some fun.